Howdy, partner, and welcome to TomHanksgiving, the only meathead chauvinist provincial Tom Hanks podcast. I'm your host, Elvis, and today my special guest is...
Samantha!
How's it going, Samantha?
It's going really well.
Fantastic. And what did we watch today?
We watched The Money Pit.
The Money Pit, 1986, Tom Hanks, Shelley Long of Cheers fame, directed by Richard Benjamin, executive produced by Steven Spielberg. I wonder if that name will be important to Tom Hanks in the future. So big, huge gag movie, kind of a sort of comedy classic for Tom Hanks. But you had no idea what this movie was.
I had never heard of it until you called me about this.
Okay, maybe perhaps I'm misapplying its classic status. But I feel like this is a movie that everyone knows about. Maybe they haven't seen it, but I guess not. So if you haven't seen it, this is what would you describe this movie as? It's obviously a comedy.
It's like a horror comedy, though. It's like a haunted house movie with no ghosts, just Tom Hanks.
The whole thing, to condense the beat by beat, like what happens in the movie is Tom Hanks and Shelley Long. They're a couple. They're not married, but they're getting closer. He's trying to get married, but she's very Diane Chambers about like, why do we need a piece of paper?
But part of that too is that she's recently divorced, like within the last year.
Yes, which is again very Diane Chambers.
Oh yeah.
Shelley Long just has a career of being kind of married to a lot of dudes. And this movie is no exception. So in fact, the movie begins with. Actually, well, let me do this real quick. I love to do, I always love to notice the first shot and the last shot in a movie and see what it says. And the movie begins with a very bizarre opening shot where we have a subtitle of Rio de Janeiro, and we're seeing Rio de Janeiro from the perspective behind the giant Jesus Christ statue, and there's fireworks. And so just that shot alone, what does that tell you about the movie?
It's going to take place in Rio.
It really doesn't, no. If I'm going to pull out some symbolism, Jesus is watching over fireworks. What does this... It's going to be a weird movie. That's the only thing I can really tell what it's going to be about. And it is. So it conveys that. We'll get to the last shot in a minute here. But so yeah, we start in Rio de Janeiro. We have Tom Hanks' father, who looks like cheap Burt Reynolds, I guess, who's married to his new mom, who's this...
He looks like Norm Macdonald's Burt Reynolds
from
Jeopardy.
Yes! That's perfect. He's married to his new wife, who is younger than Shelley Long, I'm assuming, in the movie. But yeah, when we catch up with Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, their characters are Anna is her name, and his name is Walter Fielding. Walter and Anna, they're staying at her ex-husband, her ex-husband's apartment in New York, and then he shows back up and is like, oh, we gotta move, we gotta find a place. So then the rest of the movie focuses on them purchasing this the mansion from Jumanji, and...
Is it the same mansion? Because it looks like it.
It looks exactly like it.
I was thinking that the whole time.
I don't know if it is. Both times, if it is the same one, it's gotten a lot of damage done to this place. But they buy the mansion from Jumanji, and it instantly becomes the worst investment of their lives. And they spend like half a year trying to get this thing fixed, and then sell it again, I guess, is their main goal. Or they were originally going to keep it, but then they were going to sell it, and there's relationship drama, and... The whole thing is kind of just like an excuse for Baby's Day Out type gags, like big Three Stooges like slapstick. But then it just throws in this very bizarre drama, sex situations that, well, I personally found fascinating.
It's a love triangle.
It is definitely a love triangle, but not in your conventional sense where it's like, ooh, who do I want them to be with? It's like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's like Twilight meets Monster House meets Baby's Day Out.
That's perfect. That's going in the description.
It was practiced for Steven Spielberg.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about what was your favorite part of the movie?
My favorite part of the movie is when the staircase gave out.
Yes. It's like maybe 20 maybe 30 minutes into the movie, we have like the greatest series of gags. We already have this note where there's like the door, it keeps falling down and everything. But we have this great, perfectly bit of timing where Tom Hanks goes to close the door and the door frame and the door just fall down. Shelley Long pulls up a dumbwaiter and there's a raccoon in it. Genuine surprise. She freaks out and the raccoon that jumps on her and attacks her looks way better than like any of the recent comedies where someone's being mauled by animals.
It looked better than the baby in American Sniper.
And and then that escalates to Tom Hanks is running up to help her and then the entire staircase, like a video game platform, just crumbles behind him. And then he's holding onto the ledge, and it's this great physical gag, and then she comes out and steps on his hands, and as soon as she lets go, he falls to the ground. And I thought he should have gotten impaled, because if the movie ended there, perfect movie.
Perfect.
So, the sad thing is, like, that's the comedy highlight, and
that's
we
the end
have
of the first
like
act.
an hour left to go, because the biggest problem with this movie is that it mostly hits one note, and that's the entire thing it's doing for the... Like, you can only see the house get destroyed without it... Like, it escalates, sort of.
The chain reaction gags just keep getting longer.
And more cartoony. Like,
Yeah.
you said it was just total Looney Tunes when the
yeah.
turkey flies out of the oven and then into a bucket across in the next wing of the mansion.
And then there's the final, like, the mousetrap Rube Goldberg accident of doom at the end.
Which I kept thinking, like, I've seen this... movie. Last time I saw this movie was a long time ago, but I couldn't remember if the entire house collapsed with that giant, because it felt like it was building to that.
Yeah, I thought things were gonna light on fire because she's got all those there's a moment where she has a bunch of cords that she's trying to plug in her electric kettle and sparks are flying and she stops the table saw and all this crazy stuff and. Yeah, but no, the house is fine though. That's the weird part.
That's the thing. Like, does it feel kind of like betraying the promise of the movie that the house, they end the movie with the house intact? Like, I almost feel like this is like you said, it was a horror movie without ghosts. This seems like the house from Poltergeist. Like, I kind of want to be like, there's a crater by the end of the movie.
Absolutely. Just, they talk about the strong foundation and that's all they're left with is like a tarp over a really great foundation.
Which well, I mean, we'll save that comment because we've got to talk about what the movie is about and how that is very much what it's about. In that a moment here. Well, that and Nazis. But let's talking about it like as what the movie is intended to present itself as this kind of big slapstick, ridiculous comedy. Does it work on that merit?
I mean, the slapstick, I guess, set pieces work really well.
Because like, you can't, I feel like you can't fault the movie for doing another, like, once it gets to the Rube Goldbergian thing, it's like, you can't fault the movie because this is what this movie does. This is what this kind of movie is. Well, we don't really make them anymore, I don't think. And
I think that's where it shined, honestly. Because everyone was having such a good time. And, like, when Tom Hanks was trapped in the carpet and stuck in the floor, he gets trapped, a rug starts sinking through a hole in the second floor, and so he's trapped like in a bag with his hands up by his chest, just there by the pressure of his own body.
Yeah, like he's the perfect shaped peg for that hole, so he's stuck there.
It's hilarious, and there's actual action happening around him. Things happen while he's stuck in this position, and it's hilarious, and I think it's those moments and like the staircase and when they're talking at each other through holes in the floor that the movie really works.
Which is, I mean, to its credit, because again, this is what the movie's purpose is. That's the kind of movie it is. So it's great that it succeeds like that. And yeah, like even like there are moments like the floor one especially where it's frustrating to watch. It's like, you're so dumb and like you could do this, and but
he fell so slowly into that hole.
It was like quicksand. And
put your arms out.
but I think what also like speaks to why these moments work so well, not because like it's, I mean, thoughtfully the movie's designed around them. It's essentially a set piece movie, but a comedy set piece movie, which again you don't see anymore. Really, I don't think so.
Yeah, the set pieces are comedy, but what happens in between them is absolutely not a comedy.
Which is why this movie's fascinating. But just focusing on the comedy, like again, and the last thing I have to say about that is like, for me personally, I can only watch so many like crazy Looney Tunes slapstick without like some bigger thing going on within the story and the characters. And there's sort of that. We'll talk about that in just a second. but like it hits this once you've done the raccoon staircase falling, like that's the funniest it's gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of keeps hitting the same note. But to the movies, again, to the filmmaker's credit, like the timing of all of these slapstick moments, like when he finally does fall through the hole, like the timing is spot on, like expert comedic timing with all of these sets, like and like the collapses, the falls, the pratfalls, everything is. And like another one I'm just remembering now is the scene where the long shot where they're getting ready for bed and there's a storm outside.
Yeah.
And then the light turns off and it's like they've had some kind of funny exchanges throughout the whole thing, but it's mostly like, let's get the plot out of the way. And then they wait just the right amount of time for you to realize that the rain is just pouring in.
It's not just a leak. It is like torrential.
Yes. The movie's very good with the details of the comedic timing and the set pieces, yeah. I would have to say. So I would argue it definitely succeeds in that respect as a comedy, what it's trying to do.
Yes.
But there's this other half of the movie.
Yes.
That is so weird. How would you describe the other side of this movie?
It's trying to be a relationship drama.
Which it is. It's this weird relationship drama that's not really suited for comedy.
Not at
although
all.
It has some really funny moments. I don't know if they're intentional.
I think they're all accidental. It's like if I describe the plot of the non-comedy moments, it would sound like a Sundance movie.
Right. Like,
a recently divorced woman and her new fiance, or the man that wants to become her fiance, have to struggle as they build their new home together. Her ex comes back. Like, that is a Sundance
That's
movie.
insane. And just having you describe that and me describe the slapstick version of this movie, I don't know, that was the thing. Once, like, early on, I was kind of done, and I had my share of this slapstick stuff. So what I really grappled onto, even though it doesn't, I don't know if it works.
It never works.
But the relationship drama toward the end is so fascinating that I can't stop watching the movie.
Yeah, it's as inconsistent as the sight gags are consistently the same.
Yes.
That's how scattershot the drama plot is.
Yes.
Because there was that one scene where their motivations, you said it.
Yeah, their motivations
in 5 minutes.
Yeah, because she comes in. I think it's when they first buy the house.
Mm-hmm.
He's all about the house, and she's not at all. She wants to get rid of it. She thinks it's a bad idea. 5 minutes later, then when they're going to bed, and I think the chimney caves in on itself. They have the exact same opinion. The opposite opinions, and she's like, no, this house is perfect. I love this house. We're going to make it work. And he's already like, nah, this is dumb. We should get rid of it. And there's the motivation flipping in this movie, at least until the end when it stops being about the house so much, it gives you whiplash.
And I think they try to make that metaphor of a house is good if it's got a strong foundation at the end. But I guess because their relationship is as wacky and unmotivated as the construction on this house, it works, but not on purpose.
It's thematically appropriate, but I don't know if it's functional in like a realistic sense at all.
No.
Let's talk about Tom Hanks and Shelley Long as a couple. Yes. How do you buy them as a couple before getting to the implications of the ending? Like when we first meet them, the chemistry. How do you feel about them?
Oh, I loved them together.
They're fantastic.
They were great. They had so much chemistry. They're adorable. I really liked that.
No, they're really. I like. Again, I haven't seen this movie in a while, but I'm a big Cheers fan, and obviously Shelley Long is fantastic in that. But I didn't remember her as fondly in this movie that she seems to be. Like I was worried, like, oh, this is gonna be like not as good as Diane. And I mean, I don't know if it is because the best of Diane is pretty amazing. But this, yeah, they're like she brings it, and it's not like, oh, this is the watered down version of her crazy heightened relationship hijinks.
Right, I believe the thing that I liked about it, and I don't always get this from Tom Hanks movies, is it felt like you could see the not PG version of their relationship existing outside of the realm of the movie. And actually that was something... Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
There's a sexual chemistry there, in addition to just like a flirtatious chemistry.
Yes, and that was something I was thinking, I was realizing after putting the last 3 podcasts out is outside of a very intentionally uncomfortable that's still not on camera scene in Big, you don't really get, at least, and this will change obviously once we see more movies in this podcast, but you don't see a lot of sex scenes from Tom Hanks. And we don't really get a full-on sex scene, but we get really close here with a lot of the stuff, and I kind of buy them.
There's some butt groping.
There's butt groping?
There's some butt groping.
There's
A lot
real,
of it, actually.
Yeah. There's like, we get to see Tom Hanks as a sexual creature, and you know what? It works for me.
Now I get it. I get it, Rita Wilson.
Yeah, so like I think that's what I really like about this is even though she is she's very Diane and that she's very proper and she's kind of pretentious, she has this pomposity, she's a musician, she's talented, she's artistic.
A classical musician in an orchestra.
Yes. And she comes from this divorce with a super egotistical but artistic and cultural kind of guy, the maestro.
Max?
Max, yes. But I buy I buy her as finding something she really likes in Tom Hanks. Like, I mean, obviously, that's the easiest thing in the world. Tom Hanks is just one of the greatest guys, so obviously. But I buy her as she's vested in this relationship more than just she likes this guy because he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
There's stuff that he's bringing to the table, and there's definitely stuff that she's bringing to them. She's just as charming. Like, good gosh, Shelley Long.
She's adorable.
She's adorable. Like, wow. I'm all about her. And like this do you think this couple, let's compare it to, you've seen Big, you've seen Cloud Atlas, you've seen Castaway. How does Shelley Long and Tom Hanks stack up against Elizabeth Perkins from Big? The woman who he works with and then has sex with despite the fact that he's actually 13. And then she finds out and it's really weird.
That one's weird. I mean, that's a weird
That's a weird one, but it's like purposely weird.
Yeah, but it still makes sense because if like I'm a 13-year-old boy, of course I'd be super stoked about this.
Oh yeah, you're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
Even if you're totally not ready for it.
Yeah.
But the chemistry on that movie, it certainly pales to the chemistry I see in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, part of that
makes sense.
Purposely awkward,
yeah.
But yeah.
So that's a harder one to draw a comparison with. Let's do something.
I mean, Castaway, no contest. Obviously, this is better because Castaway, like, I don't know, Wilson had more chemistry with him.
No, I didn't think Helen Hunt did a bad job, but she's barely in the movie, so
that's
it's like...
the thing. She's barely there, and when she is, like, Helen Hunt's kind of like Tom Hanks, where, like, I don't know, you just don't think of her as sexy.
Oh.
I know that's mean, but like, cause she's so like cool, you know.
No, yeah. That was, and that's something I remarked in the episode we did on Castaways. Like when you see the two of them together for the first time, it's like, oh, these feel like real people. They don't feel like movie stars glossied up to have a relationship.
No, I can see them 30 years down the line at their kid's graduation.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
sure,
but...
every now and again they spark their little romance in the bedroom, but you know it's more
obligatory.
Yeah, and not that they don't both enjoy it, but it's mechanical to the relationship. And then lastly, Cloud Atlas, and obviously that movie is just a weird mess. But Halle Berry and Tom Hanks,
it worked better than I expected.
I guess that's true.
But it was still just strange.
It was
I love that movie, and I thought
maybe I should have you on that.
I love that movie.
We'll have an addendum or something at the end here. Well, Sam will talk about Cloud Atlas for a minute. But back to Money Pit. So this is a great couple. I just want to take one other moment. We haven't done this episode, obviously, yet, or this movie yet for an episode of the podcast. But the big couple you think of when you think of Tom Hanks movies is Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
But which Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan movie?
That's true. They're very different.
They're all really different.
Let's not get into You've Got Mail, because that'll be a fun thing to dive into later. I feel like Sleepless in Seattle is regarded as the most romantic, or at least the classic.
But Joe versus the Volcano is the cutest.
Is it?
I don't know. I haven't seen it in a really long time. I have very fond memories of that movie.
I don't. But
no. So Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle with Meg Ryan.
Yes, which has another weird implications to the romance there.
Well, because the kids set it up, and I think that's the thing that I liked about this is it was just like.
These are really
Hanks.
Yeah,
you know?
This is really believable. I mean, this is just like you.
The more accurate comparison would be You've Got Mail. in terms of like chemistry and sort of that.
Because
there's that underlying anger that makes it so.
That's
he's
true.
So good at that.
She's good at it too.
Because that was the joy of watching like Woody even in Toy Story. He's got that underlying
he's
sort
so
of like
pissed
manic,
off about stuff.
like
yes.
that manic anger in his voice that just works so well, you know. And
yeah.
I think, and it works in a relationship too, because it's like, oh, you're driving me crazy, but I want to tear your clothes off. I don't know.
Which is great, and then that works perfect with Shelley Long, because like that's what Cheers was all about when she was on. Like they hated each other, they wanted to punch each other. The best part of Cheers is when they're locked and yelling and shouting at each other, and she slaps him, and then he slaps her, and then they kiss. And it's like, I love that they're both able to bring this passion, and I think this is one of the best couples I can think of in a Tom Hanks movie.
Absolutely.
This might be the best part. This might be the best contribution this movie has to the Tom Hanks library, is this on-screen couple. I love watching them together, even when the movie is kind of weak sauce around them.
Yeah, I'd like to see them in a better movie.
I mean...
Can you imagine her in You've Got Mail?
Oh my God, the movie would have been so much better.
Also, Greg Kinnear would have made so much more sense.
Ooh, that's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, listeners. We're going to get to You've Got Mails in the future. I love seeing them two together. And yeah, you were saying about how Tom Hanks is great. Like, he has this underlying anger to him. And I think that's the brilliant thing about at least early career Tom Hanks, because he's kind of ventured more into the dramatic roles where he doesn't do this as much. But you see it in Woody still. Yeah. So you still see it in stuff. But he is... like the quintessential nicest guy. He's warm. He's an everyman, and you love that about him. But I think what gives him his compelling edge is that he can get really pissed off, and it's usually a funny pissed off. But like his anger is there, and like what I want to do is a new tribute to or a new as I want to do as a new segment on this podcast is what's the Hanksiest line in the movie. And I think this is very much obviously, you whore!
He even does the Woody arm.
Yes, he does the Woody arm.
You whore!
Oh my gosh, when he said that, I couldn't stop laughing. Oh, So we've talked about them as a couple and how they're great. They have great chemistry. They're great on screen. Let's talk about them as like legitimately the problems they have as a real couple and the ending of the movie.
Oh, yeah. That shit's messed up.
That's so weird.
Can I say shit? Is that...
You can.
Okay.
Anyway, no, go on.
Their problems, though, it started out being kind of believable, because money is a difficult thing in a relationship.
Absolutely.
And I think her insecurities about a previous relationship are valid.
She's coming out, she's very vulnerable. He seems to be gung-ho, like, let's get together, let's make this... He wants to be committed.
And he apparently has a troubled relationship with his dad. That's led to his money problems. They never get into that. It's
so perfunctory to the movie. And I should do this before we get into anything else. The last shot of the movie is just a shot of a new house in Rio de Janeiro. And we're left to believe that Tom Hanks' father and his new wife are going to go through the exact same thing. Because the same Nazi wife...
We haven't gotten to the Nazi, but we haven't explained the Nazis yet. But the same lady that sold them the house, sold Tom Hanks the house, is selling his father the house down in Rio.
Yeah, so you're left to believe like, it's gonna happen again, and the final shot is more just a gag. It doesn't say anything significant about their relationship or what the movie's about. But going back to what the movie is about and this complicated relationship between these two.
So you have two people with very real world problems, and that kind of makes the slapstick in the house work at first, because the frustration is mounting, the tension is mounting, and all this weird stuff keeps happening.
And it's like a perfect expression of that pent-up rage and resentment.
And she has to borrow money from her ex. Well, she has to sell stuff that she won in the divorce to her ex. Mm-hmm. He has to borrow money from the people that he acts as a lawyer for, which seems wildly unethical. I'm sure that's a conflict of interest.
Oh, yeah. But it's Tom Hanks, and he won't like you if you don't give him money.
He says that to a child, a bad child.
Oh, a very bad child, who makes his mother go around in a French maid uniform cleaning up his cigarettes.
That's edible.
That is totally edible. But we know from the end of the movie...
He probably killed his father with that man with the gun that he had.
Ooh.
That's the movie I want to see.
We'll talk about father figures later on in the podcast.
Okay.
That was a fun thing on Big, because that was really important there. But yeah, actually, no, the father is so inconsequential to this movie.
Yeah. I don't understand what... You could have the whole movie without it.
Yeah, that you could cut that prologue and it would be better for it. Like, and that's the thing. Like, they even... When the prologue happens, it... Like, we do kind of get introduced to Tom Hanks' character. Because they have this weird point of view, close-up cutaway shots. Where it's like from... It only happens with two characters. Or three if you count. Because it's from Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, and then it's from his real estate
agent
guy.
Yeah.
And it's like their point of view looking down at a brochure or like photographs or a letter, and it's like this is a weird choice, and it like disappears after the first act, but they kept doing it, and it was like this isn't wrong. It's just interesting. I had noticed it.
I'm fairly certain it's because the lawyer died halfway through production real estate agent, whatever he was.
That's possible. He did have over 7 heart attacks during the movie. At least the character did it, at least.
Yes.
But yes, you could have entirely, like, then the movie cuts there, and then it shows opening credits over New York, and we come to the scene where, again, very sexy, where we see all of the clothes scattered about on the bedroom, and then it's like, oh, they're in pajamas. I thought it was going to be a little sexy.
Of course they're in pajamas, because it's a Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah, it can't be that sexy.
Has he ever been shirtless on camera? No, I'm just kidding. I saw Castaway.
He was shirtless in this movie too, if you don't remember.
Oh, he was.
The sexiest Tom Hanks movie that I can recall is Turner and Hooch, and that is a sexy movie. He spends the whole opening 5 minutes in his underwear working out. You can't get away from that.
I've clearly blocked this out of my mind because I know I've seen Turner and Hooch, but I remember none of this.
You will have to watch it again and be entranced by Tom Hanks's physique.
All right.
Because it is heavily featured.
All right.
Before he talks to a dog.
Sorry,
we keep jumping around here, but we're moving ahead to
much like the tone of this movie.
Much like the tone of this movie. It's a little scattered about, but the point is you could have cut the entire prologue and started there.
Yes.
Because and then we get into the real relationship problems,
yes.
the money issues, the vulnerability she's feeling from being divorced. He's kind of screwed up in that I think he wants to have this relationship so he has something solid in his life.
Yes.
That's how I read him. And yes, then he's being completely unethical as he's borrowing money.
Yeah. She's
borrowing money, or essentially borrowing money, even though she's selling old stuff that she got in the divorce from her ex-husband Max. And Tom Hanks, every time this comes up, makes some weird prostitution joke.
That also happens with the contractors, though.
Yes, it does.
He wants to prostitute Shelley Long for money because he knows she's super hot. And so that doesn't happen. No. But then she, at the end of the movie, after a 4-month cutaway, and things are looking good, right? The house looks good. It's coming along.
What is it with Tom Hanks movies and cutaways and subtitles that then clarify 4 months later? Or 4 weeks? Yeah, no, 4 months later.
It was like a substantial jump in time. And everything seems to be going really well. They have like running water and stairs, and they're a little tense, but it's coming to an end.
There's progress. Certainly not as much as there should have been.
Yeah.
But there's progress. And
so Shelley Long goes to work, and she decides to take up smoking again, even though things are going better.
She's stressed.
And then she goes and gets dinner, right, with her ex-boo. And then...
Well, this is the scene that directly follows, like this sequence directly follows the Rube Goldberg disaster.
Yes, yeah.
So it makes sense.
Which still, nothing happens but some scaffolding falls down.
Yeah, scaffolding is really
this huge letdown of a Rube Goldberg
Yeah,
thing.
It should have been a bigger
Nothing's
bag.
collapsed. They're just kind of mad at each other. And she goes and has dinner with her ex and then spends the night at his house, but she doesn't remember anything that happened.
It's very uncomfortable when you're watching this scene.
Keep in mind, we never see her drinking on screen.
Yes.
I just finished watching all of Arrested Development, so all I could think of was the Forget Me Now.
Yeah, it very much reads like that.
Yeah, so that's what it felt like. That's how random it was. Like, Joe Bluth just snuck in and pilled her.
Yeah, because when she wakes up and remembers, like, nothing, you get that uncomfortable, like, I know this is...
Because right before this, she was like, we're not sleeping together, and he goes, I might not ask.
Yeah!
And it's like...
It has this creepy, rapey tone to it.
Oh my god, plus this dude looks like Vigo the Carpathian, so you know he's just, like, sticking his wiener where it doesn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's It's bad. Like, so you just assume, like, they boned, but it probably wasn't consensual.
But because of the time this movie was made, it's like they wouldn't have made that direct anyway.
Yeah.
And, like, nobody would have thought of that when writing the movie.
Yeah.
But it's totally, like, creepily there. So it has this weird air, like, as far as we know, they slept together and there's this uncomfortable tension, like, did he drug her or something? Because she remembers none of it.
Completely unaddressed.
Yeah, and which is just left dangling there, and it's like, hello? Shelley, like, you don't remember it, maybe tell that part to Tom Hanks.
So she goes home and tells Tom Hanks.
No, she doesn't.
She
Which is like the most prolonged, oh my god. Sequence. It's very uncomfortable because Tom Hanks is like, because of all these prostitution remarks he's made, he's kind of been like the jerk of the relationship. Yes. But then she goes home after actually sleeping with this guy and continues to lie directly to his face.
But weirdly, he also comes off as the bad guy in the scene because he's the one that keeps asking.
Yeah.
So he looks super jealous and paranoid, even though clearly he has well, no, he doesn't have every reason to be, because she was date raped.
That's true. Like, if we assume that she wasn't date raped and it was consensual, it's such a weird...
It's very complicated in 2015.
It certainly is. Because the scene plays him as the bad guy, even though I think the movie isn't saying it's date rape. I think the movie's saying she had sex with him.
Yeah.
Consensually. So the movie is taking her side, even though she cheated on him.
Yeah.
And yet, the movie's playing up him as the bad guy, and then she continues... And, like, the whole time, we're just sitting there like, this isn't funny anymore. I mean, it's funny because it's... Like, this is so weird.
It's going on for so long. It's funny in the way Family Guy is funny, where you're laughing because you're uncomfortable.
Yes. And it keeps going because it's the whole dinner-ish sequence, and then it cuts to them in bed, and he's still harping on about it. And then she's like, believe me, I tell you, no. Or, like, I absolutely would never do that. And if I did, I would tell you. And he's continuing. And then he starts to soften up because he's like, if you told me, I would be okay with it. I just want to know that you would.
That's
feel
where he
the
delivers
trust.
the line about the macho chauvinist provincial.
Yes.
Right? Is that?
No. It's meathead chauvinist provincial.
Yeah. I'm not a meathead chauvinist provincial, and she's like me.
Yeah. And they have this like, I'm a feminist almost. That's almost what it sounds like. You could tell me.
Like feminists are totally cool with cheating.
Yes.
Which is never okay.
No. Oh god.
As a feminist, I can say this.
That's why she's on this episode of the podcast.
Really?
No.
Okay. But then they fall asleep, and then she wakes him up again, and she's like, no, wait, I totally did bone this guy.
And I gotta say, his performance in this sequence, when she's telling him, and he's still half asleep, his face is like, so, you totally buy it, he's like asleep, it's hilarious. I think this is my favorite part of his performance in the entire movie, is she's confessing she had sex with Max, and he's like half asleep, like, and then the other half is like accepting and loving about it, but you just see this tiny little boiling thing that's building.
The lights go off, and then they come back on again, and it is...
You whore!
You bastard!
And they just come to these blows, these verbal blows. And again, the Hanksiest line, and it, like, again, it's so... It doesn't work because the movie's not about this, but it's so funny because their chemistry is so good.
Yeah.
Like, it's the funniest parts of the movie for me, like the unintentionally funny, I guess that they are kind of intentionally funny, is when they're really mean to each other.
Yeah, it just feels so bad laughing about it because it's not organic to the rest of what's going on.
Yeah, it's certainly not what the movie's
jarring.
about.
Yeah.
It's not about these two people, like, really hate loving each other.
Yeah.
But, like, that's what I really want to see from these two actors.
Mm-hmm.
But because that is what they're so good at, and, like, that's what's most entertaining to watch, does it make sense that they end up together? Like, do you believe the statement that the obvious cheesy metaphor that the movie makes is like, with a good foundation, everything else can be fixed?
100%.
You believe that?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
I think, like, for me, at least, like, personally, one of the most important things in a relationship is being able to argue well, and they do.
They argue well and entertainingly.
Yes, because even though he calls her these names and stuff, that's not what she takes personally. She takes personally the fact that he didn't trust her.
Right.
So they're not... I don't know. It's really interesting. It's weirdly honest and like true to life. I appreciate that. The dialogue at the end is cheesy, so that's why it feels awkward. I think that they still end up together, and the fact that they went like 3 more weeks without speaking to each other while living in the same house.
It's more like that. Not that they ended up, because they do have the chemistry, and I think you're right that it's very honest. And I think what saves the movie is, again, it's these two actors, because he's saying all these terrible things to her, but she says he's totally equal the whole time.
Yeah, she's firing right back.
They're never on unequal ground. They're a match for each other, which is why I think they are a perfect match.
Yeah, even when they're pissed, there's a mutual respect there.
Yes.
And it is really fun to watch. I would love to see these two in another movie together.
Yeah. And
I'm still kind of bummed that this did not happen with You've Got Mail.
That would have been some great casting.
For a minute.
Oh man. No, yeah, they're fantastic together when they're at each other's throats. And yeah, I guess I do believe. I guess it's all about the strong foundation, because you can go through some shit with anybody, but like, if it's a person you really care about and you have this foundation,
they can do the stupidest things and say the stupidest things, and as long as you feel free to say it right back, you're cool.
That's important. It's a great relationship on screen, and I still think that I would say
clearly I have healthy, kind relationships in my life.
I don't know what appeals to me about relationships is certainly the entertaining arguments myself. So maybe I don't have the best perspective either. No, but I buy him. I think the wedding is. I think what ruins I don't want to say ruins the movie, but like what hurts the movie is, again, they should have lasted, but the house should have been destroyed. I think that would have been the concession the movie should have made, because they have a strong foundation. I don't think the house does. I don't think the house works as a metaphor for their relationship.
Really?
No, I mean, I get what it is, and like that's totally what the movie is. But I think it would have been more interesting had the house fallen, but they stayed together.
I think.
Or maybe.
I think the house was too perfect because it was so beautiful. But I think it would have been funny if it still had some like quirky, weird stuff in it.
Maybe.
Because I think that's where it's going. You know, like there's no way this house is ever going to be perfect. But there's a way that it could be livable. That's
true. Maybe that's what it's reading, because it comes across as like perfect and beautiful, which is not what the relationship is ever going to be, because it's not realistic.
I think if they had tried coming through the door and the knob fell off,
that would have been great.
That would have been perfect, because the house is still, again, it's functional, and this is all stuff they can fix, but oh god, we're always going to be dealing with this.
Yeah, like the door should have come down or something. That would have actually fixed pretty much my problems, because I think what I'm dealing with is not the metaphor relationship actually, but the divide between that side of the movie and the other side being like this house disaster movie, this big slapstick. Because the promise of the house disaster thing is like the house just, I want to see that crater, like at the end of Poltergeist, even though that's horror and supernatural. Like I feel like this is still the same thing where like I want to see nothing. Like when the Rube Goldberg moment happens, there should have, like, everything should have fallen down, and it's like, all right, it's truly a money pit. We can't get out of it.
Yeah. But that also would have been pretty hopeless.
No, it's true. But because of what they sunk, or what they paired the metaphor with, it wouldn't have worked. But I think, you're that's exactly what should have happened. Like, have the door fall off, or even just the doorknob. So that would have been perfect, and that's why this movie is not perfect.
Yeah.
But just like most relationships.
Yes.
How could it be perfect?
Exactly.
If this Tom Hanks movie was an ice cream flavor, what would it be?
Ooh.
What is the money pit?
What is the money pit? Hold on, let me think about this. What's an incongruous ice cream? Maybe like bacon ice cream, like those bacon sundaes you can get. Because it doesn't make sense, but it still kind of works.
Yeah, because you like the bacon, you like the ice cream. Together they don't work very well, but you can stomach it down and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a novelty. Yeah. I don't need to have it more than once.
Which is exactly how I feel about the money pit, actually.
Oh, exactly. There we go.
The only thing that I would want to do more than once is Tom Hanks and Shelley Long together.
Yes. Yeah.
But that we're talking about the movie specifically.
Yeah. And there's still, there's elements of a bacon sundae that you're always gonna enjoy, but.
And it's that.
the whole package together
Yes.
is not something I want to deal with. But
Of
those
course.
two, they're the ice cream. I would come back to that.
I would definitely come back to the ice cream every time. I love ice cream.
Me too.
What have we learned with the Money Pit? How do you feel? Is this going to change your life? How is this movie?
I now feel cheated and You've Got Mail.
Oh no.
I do. I want to see those two in a movie again together. So that's good.
I would love that. There's still time. So I would say, again, greatest takeaway from this movie, Shelley Long and Tom Hanks, fantastic. Currently, my new favorite Tom Hanks couple of the run. That might change when we go look into some other movies, but right now they're my OTP. You?
I just like Hooch.
Hooch? Well, okay. We have someone running for the money with Turner and Hooch. This is fantastic. Thank you for so much. That's the Money Pit, everybody. Thanks for coming on, Sam. Do you want to plug anything? B-list dude of the week?
I mean, I guess, yeah, if you're bored at work on Tuesday, go to blistdudeoftheweek.com. You won't find Tom Hanks on there because he's squarely A-list.
He sure is.
But
maybe we should do
maybe
B-list.
Colin.
Yes. Or maybe we should do a TomHanksgiving special where it's like all the B-list dudes from Tom Hanks movies.
That would be fun.
That would be great. You, dear listener, if you want to get in touch and tell us what you loved or what you hated about the Money Pit, contact us on Twitter at TomHanksPod or send us an email at TomHanksPod@gmail.com. Of course, subscribe on iTunes if you're not already. Give us a rating. Leave us a comment. Tell your friends. We're trying to get the show off the ground here. And thank you so much. That is it for this week. Next week, we're talking Punchline.
Oh, the Nazis.
Oh, we should definitely talk about...
We keep teasing this.
The Nazis. Yeah, let's talk about the Nazis. They go to buy the house from this little old lady who's actually the lady from Cocoon.
Yes. She's in a rush to sell it. And they're trying to figure out... They assume that her husband has died or left her. Mm-hmm. And they say that they're so sorry. But what's happened is they lived in Paraguay for 10 years. His name is Carlos. And he's about to be deported. Because he was Hitler's pool boy. Right,
because the Israeli...
The IDF is after him or something.
Yes.
Yeah. But clearly it all worked out for everybody because she and Carlos wound up down in Rio selling another crummy house.
Which is very intense German accent.
I don't know. I thought for a minute they were going to find some Nazi gold and that was going to solve all their problems. That would have been great. But that doesn't feel like a very Steven Spielberg thing to do.
No, which interesting that Steven Spielberg was executive producer on this.
The Nazi got away in a Steven Spielberg movie.
And he kind of gets the upper hand both times. Like, sure, they made the Money Pit house work. The Jumanji house, they were able to keep it and they made it nice. But he still put him through hell, and it's going to happen again with the father. So what does that say?
I mean, it gives Tom Hanks a lot of motivation in Saving Private Ryan.
Sure
is what it does.
Tom Hanks, we fell in love with you, Tom Hanks, just like so many do deeply, because you made us smile, and your great on-screen style. So that's why we give thanks. 'Cause you got a friend